Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back again to Vanz channel. Today, as usual, I will share another game list recommendation that you can play on your Android device. This time the recommendation is 65 Winlator game list that you can play on Android devices that have Snapdragon 865 processor. Some of the gameplay shown uses the previous Winlator, and of course there are some FPS improvements if you try it on the latest Winlator version. Okay, no more talking, let's begin. On this first list is Dead Space 2 game. This game is good enough for you to play on this chipset. Next is the Metal Rising Revengeance game, which of course can be played quite well with stable FPS. Next is the game Far Cry 3. As you can see, this game is very smooth to play on this chipset. Next, Assassin's Creed Rogue. No doubt this game runs very well on Yuzu or Winlator. Next, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is one of the games that is highly recommended for you to play on this Winlator. 6. Oneechanbara Origin. This is a game with a unique gameplay presentation that you don't want to miss. Next, the Sleeping Dog game is still quite playable for you to play on this Winlator with good settings. Next, Devil May Cry. This is one of the games with quite impressive graphics for you to play. Next, the Killing Antidote. Use some of the recommended settings below to play this game. Next, Far Cry 4. Use the resolution as you see below and some recommended settings to run this game. 11. Devil May Cry 5. This is one of the heavy games in Winlator. Use the appropriate settings to run. Next, Resident Evil 3 Remake. This is one of the best remakes that runs well on this processor. 13th Battlefield 4. Use DXVK recommendations below and turn up Mesa to run this game. Next, Tomb Raider. No need to hesitate. You can definitely play one of these popular games on this processor. Next, Most Wanted 2012. This is one of the racing games that is quite popular on this Winlator. 16. Warrior All-Star. Try using the DXVK settings below. You might be able to play it better. Next, Dirt Rally. This phenomenal rally game can be played on this 865 processor without any problems. Next, Dirt 2. Just like the previous list, some rally games are also smooth for you to play. Next, Dirt 3. If you feel the settings presented below are not satisfactory, please comment. Next, Dirt 4. This racing game is quite interesting to play, available on your Android Winlator for SD865. 21. Dirt Showdown. Dirt Showdown is an arcade spin-off of the Dirt series. You can run it now. Next, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. This cool fighting game can be played smoothly and stable. Next, Street Fighter V, one of the most realistic fighting games of its time that can be played now. Next, WWE 2015. Use the latest turnip driver and latest Mesa to run this game more smoothly. Next, Ace Combat 7. Use the recommended settings below and also use a slightly older turnip. 26. Street Fighter 4. With just a mid-range processor, you can play this franchise stably. Next, One Punch Man. This is one of the best games and is highly recommended for you to play now. Next, Dead or Alive 5. Just like the previous list, this is also a recommendation for you to play. Next, GTA 4. One of the best game in Winlator for you to play on this 865 processor now. Next, GTA 5. If you feel the settings below are not good enough, use your own better settings to run this. 31. Dead Space. This is the first horror game in the series. Now you can play it smoothly. Next, Resident Evil 4 Ultimate HD. This game runs quite well compared to the original version on Yuzu. Next, Darksiders 1. With stable frames per second above 20, you can definitely play this cool action game. Next, Devil May Cry 4. This is one of the best cool action games that you definitely shouldn't miss. Next, Crysis. If you think the settings below are not good enough, use your best settings to run. 36. Skyrim. Skyrim is an open-world game with an amazing fantasy feel, and you shouldn't miss it. Next, Mortal Kombat. You can also play this Mortal Kombat series quite smoothly on Vita 3K. Next, Stalker. This quite popular horror action game can certainly be played on mid-range chipsets. Next, Tomb Raider Underworld. Use the recommended settings below to get better FPS. Next, Dark Souls 2. This Souls-like game can be played on mid-range devices with the right turnip drivers. 41. Dark Souls Remasters. Just like the previous list, this game can be played on this chipset. Next, MudRunner. Use the DXVK resolution and settings, as shown below, to run this game stably. Next, Need for Speed Carbon. This racing game is quite popular on Winlator, with good FPS performance. Next, Deadpool. This quite interesting and cool action game can also be played on mid-range chipsets. Next, Mortal Kombat XL. I suggest you use some of the settings below to improve performance. 46. Assassin's Creed 3. This game series is still not stable enough to be played on this chipset. Next, Left 4 Dead 2. This popular game can now be played quite smoothly on this chipset. Next, Dragon Ball Xenoverse. I also recommend this best adventure game to be played on your device. Next, Call of Duty World at War. This game is one of the games that is quite stable for you to play. Next, God of War 2018. You can achieve this impressive heavy game in-game using this chipset. 51. Call of Duty 4. This modern warfare game is a game that can be played on both Mali and Adreno. Next, COD 2 Modern Warfare. Use the recommended resolution for you to use below to run it. Next, Metro Last Light Redux. This game can also be played on devices with mid-range chipsets. Next, Call of Duty Ghost. One of the Call of Duty series that is quite cool to play on this Winlator. Next, Mafia 2. Whether low-end or mid-range chipset, all can play this game on Winlator stably. 56. Hellblade. This game is quite heavy for you to play on Winlator using this processor. Next, Stray. The following gameplay uses an old version of Winlator. Use the latest version to make it playable. Next, Metro 2033 Redux. Also use the latest version to make it more stable to play. Next, Watch Dogs. Use the settings below to better run this game on your Snapdragon 865 processor. Next, Dying Light. One of the unique games with realistic graphics can now be played more stably. 61. Sniper Ghost Warrior 2. This is a game that used to be quite impressive to play on the PS3. Next, The Witcher 3. I suggest you to use better settings to run this game on Snapdragon 865. Next, Call of Juarez Gunslinger. With graphics settings up to HD resolution, this game still runs smoothly. Next, Sniper Elite 3. This is a game with stunning graphics and smooth to play. Final list, Crysis 3. This FPS game with stunning graphic quality can also be played quite well. Okay, those are some lists of recommended Winlator games that you can play on the Snapdragon 865 processor. Some lists of games that are not mentioned, please add them in the comments. From the list above, you can see that there are some games that can be played very smoothly or even vice versa. If the settings I provide are not good, you can use your own settings. Okay, if you found this video useful, please share to your friend. And also, don't forget to like and subscribe to Vanzi channel. Bye.